first special edition of Flying Machines Monthly, presented in association with Aeroplane Monthly magazine. Flying Machines Monthly is a new concept, a classic aircraft magazine on video. Every month we feature exclusive reports from around the world on all aspects of vintage aviation. We bring you the best original air-to-air footage, as well as amazing minicam footage that actually puts you inside the aircraft. Our cameramen also get the most dramatic ground-to-air shots. All our features are produced exclusively for Flying Machines, and at least 90% of each program will be original footage. No rehashing of archive material you've seen hundreds of times before. Each program is filmed and edited to full broadcast specifications, giving full television quality, unlike many aviation videos currently available. Trailers from our other video releases will appear at the end of the program. In this special edition of Flying Machines Monthly, we feature two unique aircraft. The Messerschmitt 109 G2 Black 6, as well as the magnificent Bristol Blenheim of the British Aerial Museum. There's also a report from this year's Victory Airshow at Duxford, but we start with the news. On September the 16th, Sea Hurricane Z7015 flew for the first time after a lengthy restoration. The aircraft, jointly owned and operated by the Shuttleworth Collection and the Imperial War Museum, successfully completed its flight, and it's hoped that flight testing will be completed in time for it to appear at the Duxford Autumn Air Day on October the 15th. Messerschmitt Bf-108, operated by DASA, seen here at the Flying Legends Airshow on July the 15th, crashed at an airshow in Germany on September the 9th, killing both its pilot and a passenger on board. The aircraft was one of only a few genuine 108s left flying. An investigation is underway into the cause of the crash. The Source Classic Jet Flight, based at Bournemouth International Airport, unveiled their new single-seat de Havilland Vampire FB6, painted in the colours of the Fleet Air Arm. The markings are of the first jet aircraft to make a carrier landing. Flown by Eric Winkle Brown, the Vampire flew from HMS Ocean on December the 3rd, 1945. Source have plans for a very special event on the anniversary. The aircraft is expected to make its first flight shortly and will be joined by another of Source's Vampires that's being repainted in Fleet Air Arm colours to commemorate a branch of the service that is currently only represented by the Royal Naval Historical Flight. On the 17th of March 1991, Messerschmitt 109 G2 Black 6 took to the air after a restoration spanning almost 20 years. It was a magnificent achievement that was marred only by the political wranglings going on behind the scenes. A dedicated team of volunteers, led by Russ Snadden, restored the aircraft, which is owned by the Ministry of Defence. However, they were to have no say in the ultimate destiny of the 109G they'd spent years working on. It was decided that the aircraft was to be the responsibility of the Imperial War Museum at Duxford, and that it would be flown for 3 years only before being permanently grounded and placed on static display at the RAF Museum, Hendon. Obviously, this was not what the team had envisaged for their aircraft.
Well, they turned up for this meeting and decided that basically it was going to have 3 years, and that was just plucked out of the blue, basically, that figure, and we were all a bit act off about it.
From what I gather, it was just a figure plucked out of the air. I don't think half the people there had any idea of beyond. They were lumbered with this aeroplane flying in some way because of the work that had gone into it, not only by us, but by various public companies. They were backed into a corner of letting it fly.
Russ Snadden, the team leader and driving force behind the project, in his book Black 6, states that the project suffered from an almost total lack of official support. Yet it was to be the MOD that were to decide the fate of Black 6. Unfortunately, Black 6 was unable to take part in most of the 1994 display season due to various problems with its engine and fuel tanks. This made the team and the public more determined that 1995 would not be its final display season.
We had a petition running at the air shows on our stall, and there's a lot of signatures in that, both from the UK and Europe, Germany as well, America, to have it continue flying. But the actual meeting and arguments that were put forward were done by John Allison, the chief pilot.
It was hoped that Black 6 would win a reprieve and at least get a further year's flying to make up for the 1994 season.
I was hoping we would, because so much work went into the project. It would have been such a waste to spend so many years building the aeroplane. Although it's rare, yeah, fair enough, but for it to be put into a museum just to sit when it could be flying, I think everybody would have been really downhearted.
After representations by the team's chief pilot, Air Marshal Sir John Allison, the good news was announced. The world's most authentic, airworthy Messerschmitt 109 was to get a reprieve for 2 years. Black 6 is being flown for this air-to-air sortie by Charlie Brown. Here we see a unique view from inside the cockpit of the aircraft, being flown here by John Allison. Black 6 is being flown by 3 pilots for the 1995 season: Air Marshal Sir John Allison, Charlie Brown and Dave Southwood.
I think I enjoy flying this because it is such a genuine original aeroplane in terms of the cockpit, and so it gives you a very original flavour of what the airplane was like. It's also got some fairly tricky handling qualities, so it's a challenge to fly it, and I always like a challenge, so that to actually get in and fly it and to do a good display does give you a great sense of satisfaction.
The aircraft has changed from its original desert markings to European colours for its role in a forthcoming BBC film production, and is seen here with another Daimler-Benz engined 109, owned by Hans Dittus and operated by the old Flying Machine Company. "1995 has been a good year for Black 6 and its committed team of volunteers. A full airshow season, good serviceability, and ultimately at least 2 more years in the air."
While this is in good condition and properly maintained, I see no reason why it shouldn't fly, as long as it's operated correctly, which is what we aim to do. And it would be possible to go beyond that time. I think with the airframe and the engine, it's possible to overhaul. The engine isn't a throwaway item, it could be overhauled. So there is really no limit on the time, but it's pleasing to see it extended in the circumstances, and it would be nice to see it as an ongoing thing.
No, you do get a kick out of it. I mean, I've been involved in it for a long time. It's my living now anyway. I work for the RAF Museum now, so my living is old aircraft. My hobby, principal hobby, has been old aircraft for 25 years, I suppose, now. And I do enjoy it, yeah.
The debate about flying such rare aircraft will continue. But anyone who has seen and heard this magnificent aircraft being displayed will not forget just what a fearsome weapon of war Willy Messerschmitt's classic fighter was. On May the 8th, 1945, peace came again to Europe after 6 long years of war. 50 years later, the whole world commemorated that momentous day. At the Imperial War Museum, Duxford, a wartime airfield in Cambridgeshire, a VE Day airshow was held as part of the victory celebrations. The day started with the arrival and departures of many of the aircraft taking part in the Buckingham Palace flypast. There were representatives from every command in the RAF. Some of the finest aircraft ever built flew in and out of this historic airfield on their way to be seen by hundreds of thousands of people commemorating the end of World War II. The first aircraft to display was the consolidated Catalina, owned by Plain Sailing Limited. This aircraft has been appearing at air displays throughout Europe since 1985 and is currently based at Duxford. One of the highlights of the show was an immaculate display by Lee Proudfoot in the Fighter Collection's Mark IX Spitfire and Nick Gray in the collection's Hellcat. Representing the Fleet Air Arm was the Fairy Swordfish of the Royal Naval Historic Flight, flown by Lieutenant Commander David Laws. In the skies over Duxford, she proved a graceful sight. Alan Walker, in the Old Flying Machine Company's Hawker Fury, put on a spirited display. Sally B is 50 years old this year, and she's also been on the Airshow circuit for 20 years. Always a favourite at airshows, this immaculate display was flown by Sally B's chief pilot, Keith Sissons. The bravest pilot award went to Michael Carlson, who flew his Blériot monoplane in winds that were approaching its operational limits. Lee Proudfoot also displayed the Fieseler Storch from the British Aerial Museum. The Battle of Britain Memorial Flight provided the perfect tribute to all the brave RAF crews who fought and died during World War II. The end of the show provided an exclusive, with the first pairing of two Daimler-Benz engined Messerschmitt 109s in decades. Black 6, flown by Charlie Brown, was accompanied by Hans Dittus 109, flown by Mark Hanna. Overall, the show was a success, but the unexpectedly high attendance of nearly 30,000 people caused problems with the infrastructure in and around the Duxford site. But at the end of the day, most people will have gone home having seen some great aircraft. Now, your chance to win a year's subscription to Flying Machines Monthly. Just answer this simple question. In what year did Black 6 first fly after its restoration? Answers on a postcard, please, to Flying Machines Competition, Flying Machines Monthly, Cardinal Facilities, Oakley Green Road, Windsor, Berkshire, SL4 5UL. The closing date for the competition is November the 28th, 1995. The Imperial War Museum at Duxford is a mecca for aircraft enthusiasts throughout Europe. The site is home to dozens of airworthy classic aircraft, and many of them are extremely rare and valuable. But But possibly the most unique aircraft at Duxford is the British Aerial Museum's Bristol Blenheim. This is the only example of its type flying anywhere in the world today. Blenheim WMZ is in fact the second restoration of its type undertaken by the volunteers at BAM. The first restoration took over 14 years to complete, and within a few weeks of its first flight, it was completely destroyed in an accident caused by pilot error. Fortunately, no one was killed in the crash, and a short time afterwards, the decision was taken to attempt a second restoration. Starting again was a daunting prospect, but another airframe was found in Scotland, and the team set about restoring another Blenheim. It was hoped that because of their experience in restoring the first aircraft, the second restoration would only take 5 years to complete. The chief engineer on the project was John Romaine, who was in the engineer's seat when the first aircraft crashed.
First thing we did was to prepare the workshop to start building yet another Blenheim. And the first lump that came in was the centre section. So we left the fuselage, we just concentrated on the main lump. Everything bolts to that, so it's a logical piece to start with. The difference between the approach on the restorations was that the first aircraft was lacking in systems when it arrived. So we had to build the airframe first and then design our own systems, pneumatics, hydraulics, to fit the aircraft. With the second aeroplane, not only did it have a lot of the systems already with it, but we'd done that design. So we incorporated the design into the pieces that we built. So the centre section was built as a production lump, incorporating all the systems, the piping, everything, even down to the wiring, with production brakes at the major points. And we did that with each part of the aircraft. So the final assembly was much easier.
Much of the panel work was carried out by John Smudger Smith.
To replace a panel on an aircraft, each rivet must be individually drilled off. This must be done accurately because you cannot afford to oversize the holes. So each rivet is drilled off, the head is taken out, then each rivet is punched out. Somebody has to be inside to hold a dolly against the back of the rivet so you can actually punch the rivet out. The skin is then taken off. If the skin is reusable, then it's paint stripped. It can be then re-etched primed and put back onto the aircraft. If it's not usable, then we use that skin as a pattern and we actually drill the new skin off to the holes that existed in the old skin, and then we know that that skin will go back accurately back onto the framework.
Responsibility for the Bristol Mercury engines rested with Neville Gardner.
The funny thing was for me, the guys were building an airplane ×1, and once I'd built an engine, I'd then got to go and build another one, which was quite depressing really, I suppose, in some ways. Although I must admit, the second time I felt more confident in exactly how much I'd have to do and that I would get to the end of it. And I knew that I could do it. We didn't have any major problems really. So that once the first engine was finished in the workshop, we wheeled it down to the airframe and on it went, which was a tremendous boost.
Graham Warner was a key figure in getting the first restoration completed and is the owner of WMZ.
We'd worked away quite well on the second restoration and it was coming along well until about 1991 when we found that we had a problem with the special steel that's employed in the main spars in the wings, and we'd run out of the existing stock of this special steel and we had great difficulty in getting some manufactured and treated to the CAA's satisfaction so that we could complete the second wing, and this did in fact delay us for many months.
The first flight approached rapidly. The aircraft was to be flown by John Romaine, who'd built up enough flying experience to tackle this difficult task. On the 28th of May 1993, the world had another airworthy Bristol Blenheim, obviously an emotional moment for the restoration team.
Of course, the culmination of all our efforts is to see the Blenheim actually take to the air again, and The thrill of seeing that happen was absolutely indescribable. The whole team were completely overjoyed to see the results of their labours once more taking to the skies. We needed to show one of the many roles that the Blenheim carried out. And whereas everyone knows that the Hurricane and Spitfire were the principal day fighters during the Battle of Britain, not many people are aware that the Blenheim was the principal night fighter. So we researched to find a suitable aircraft, and we hit upon this one, which was the personal aircraft of Wing Commander the Hon. Max Aitken, Lord Beaverbrook's son.
It's unique in the air in that some aircraft look great on the ground and they look equally nice in the air. The Blenheim looks astounding in the air and okay on the ground. But when you see it actually flying next to you in the air, it takes on a different look. It's got a graceful beauty to it, which on the ground it lacks.
The Bristol Blenheim is flown today in honour of the many Blenheim crews who lost their lives in the early years of World War II. Their stories remained largely forgotten until the Blenheim team put this marvellous aircraft back in the air again and brought the stories of the heroism of its crews back into the history of World War II.